Good morning and welcome to my garden. I'd like to take you for a walk around my garden this morning. It's been a while since I've walked around my garden and shown you all, and I think it's looking wonderful. So this is the south direction of our garden, and we have a lot of cold breezes that come up this way. I have been establishing a windbreak. I've used sugarcane because that's known to be a good windbreak, but I've also used arrowroot because it grows so fast and so prolifically, and if all else fails, it can be a great chop and drop plant for me. I love all the little spider's webs that drape across between the plants and the dewdrops that settle on the spider's webs. It's very pretty, like little strings of jewels. Adds a real mystical feel to the garden. My banana bed and asparagus. I have recently put down 2 rolls of sugarcane mulch on my garden, so it's looking really well loved. I've learned that rhubarb grows really well as a companion to asparagus. I guess that's because they're both very long-lived perennials. Asparagus grows a very high plant and rhubarb will grow low. I've also heard that strawberries are a good companion. So I'm excited to have this bed planted out eventually with asparagus, rhubarb and strawberries. I had some volunteer pumpkins come up and they're still growing. They're not ready to be picked yet. It's my contour 1 bed on the south. You can see down the centre I've got nectarine, apricot, papayas, pineapples. At the back I have a chop and drop row, which is going to be chopped and dropped on the mulch row. These plants are doing quite well. I planted pigeon pea between everything, and it's growing very happily. This tomato I grew from a seed that I'd saved previously. I've had a number of fruit come off it that have been very big and very beautiful and very bug-eaten. So I haven't actually been able to enjoy anything here. Oh, there you go. That one just fell off. That is soft and squishy. That fell off because it's rotting inside. That'll go to the chooks. Papayas are still producing fruit. I've now been beset, like everyone else, with the mould all over the leaves. I guess it's common to all pawpaw and papaya growers. They get mould in winter. Chili plants. Every month I've been bottling up a batch of chili, only a small batch, so I've got like 4 bottles for us and 1 to give away each batch. But that's enough. Hubby's been enjoying it very much, and so's my daughter. Broad beans. They were not watered as much as they should have been, so I don't know how reliable their crop's going to be. Basil's still hanging around flowering for the bees. These little chilies are quite hot and they've added significant spice to my chili sauce. I don't know what type they are. Now I have 3 types of chilies here, and I'd really love for someone to help me identify. We've got these little ones. These might be bird's eye. And we've got these ones that stand up on the bush. They've actually got quite some bite too. And then these milder ones, which the first couple, when I picked them, they had no bite at all. I thought they were very mild. At the start, when they were young, I was eating a whole green one with my breakfast egg, and I was really enjoying that. And then a few months into production, suddenly got hot, and now I'm down to having only 1/3 of a chili with my morning eggs. That's contour 1. Wedge garden on the south. My peas have been fantastic. I have learnt that I probably shouldn't have planted them around this kind of a structure of trellis. They really need to be open and spread out, and being planted around 3 pickets around circle didn't allow them to spread out much. I don't doubt that they would have got mould even if I'd planted them in a straight line along a fence, but I have a feeling it wouldn't have affected everything so quickly. So next season I won't be planting peas in a round trellis. I'll plant them on a straight one. I added this wire later because as the rings were low, the whole bush just overbalanced over to the side. I put that there to give them some structure, and instead they all fell the other way. A lot of these peas now have mould on and aren't going to be pleasant to eat, but I will shell the pea and use just the pea, not the skin. My 2 seed carrots are looking happy. I don't water this bed anymore because if I water them, the carrot roots will rot, and I don't want that. I want to save them for seed. This is the first time I've ever grown calendula, and boy, it's looking happy. So bright. It's very good for bees. It's very good for all insects. Oh, look at the colouring on this one. They're quite different from each other. It's got the orange tips, a lighter colour down into the heart. And this yellow one's very yellow all the way down the petals. I'm enjoying them. We've eaten our first daikon radish. Boy, it was a delight. It tasted like radish raw, but it also, when you cook it or oven bake it, it loses that radish bite and becomes quite a nice, very delicate roasted vegetable. And this particular one that we ate came from here, and it was kind of growing like it was lying on the surface more than it was under the ground. It was 1.9 kilos worth of daikon radish. The leaves, the top of the plant was about that size. Came in the cover crop, so it was planted as a plant that's meant to break the ground up to soften the soil. I haven't forgotten my pond. The jaboticaba needs to come out, and then I'll dig that out, so that'll be a nice wide place where little kids can dangle their feet, well, and big kids can dangle their feet in the water. And then I'll have to do some cleaning up around the edge too, but one thing at a time. The garden will be here next week, next month, next year. I can get onto it then. My blueberries in pots are doing okay. I know that all plants do better in the ground because their roots can go wherever they like. And these pots are in the full northern sun, so they will be getting hot, which means they will be drying out and they will be potentially damaging the roots of the blueberries. But I also know it's really hard to make the ground acidic enough for blueberries, and in pots it's easier to do that. So I'm considering turning this garden here into a highly acidic garden. Still doing the research on that one. Contour one, once again I've got my chop and drop on the southern side of the bed with some of the vegetables that I planted before I realised I needed to change things around. I've enjoyed having homegrown carrots, but I don't have many here at the moment. These aren't quite big enough yet. Kale, parsnip, spring onions, more carrot. These are definitely not big enough yet. More parsnip, some leek here and some leek there. Oh yes, and my broccoli. Yes, it needs to be used, but we're still trying to eat the previous one. I've grown potatoes twice before, each time with slightly increasing success. These ones are kifla, and they're supposed to be determinate, which means I don't need to build up around the stems. But I kind of feel like I should, because they're growing such tall stems. Parsnip, cabbage. Now, it looks like I better pick this one because it looks like the bugs have started into it, so I probably should pick it. This tomato bush just keeps producing little bits. I haven't picked in the last couple of days, so I have to do that today. Dutch cream potatoes in here. Now, they are indeterminate, which means they will keep growing up the stem if I backfill around the stem. I've put this garden bed around the edge so that I can support the soil around it. These along here are actually flowers. That'll add some beautiful colour to the garden. These ones are Sebago, and I've piled up around them with some of the sugarcane mulch I received and some soil. I should probably build up around these a little bit more. I can do that by lifting this a little bit, and I can add more soil and more sugarcane around that. Contour 2 on the north side. This side, my chop and drop, is a mixed batch, whereas on Contour 1 it was mainly natives. On this side, it's a mixed batch of whatever was cheap where I was growing. So this is a leptospermum tea tree, this is a tibercina, this is an azalea. I don't remember, another azalea. I've got some pigeon pea planted between them here. Sunflowers from the original cover crop. This little azalea is flowering. It's very exciting. Exciting to have one of my chop and drop plants flowering and growing happily. This buddleia is also flowering here, like a white, blue, grey flower with green in it too. It's quite pretty actually. I like the way the dew has settled on the leaf and all these tiny little crystals all over the leaf. This looks like snow. So that'll be the fine hairs on the plant capturing the water droplets and then the sun glistening off them. Gordonia, Phibalium, Camellia. Now this garden bed round here, I built it up with soil from the earthworks. I'm very proud of this garden bed. It's looking really good. I've transplanted some thyme and oregano along the edge, and most of them are surviving. These would be snow peas. My avocados are so happy and so strong. I may end up pruning off that lower branch to keep it back off the vegetable garden, or I may just decide it's allowed to be there because it's its garden. These are tomatoes from seeds that I've saved over the years. Unfortunately, I don't remember what kind they are. Put extra mulch under there because tomatoes will be there for a while. Don't want the weeds to be. It's lovely to have so much time growing that I can pick it. It's very enjoyable to come out and pick my own ingredients. These lettuces I planted in a row and they were clearly overcrowded, so I have spread them out. And I think all the ones I transplanted survived, and that one will survive too if I don't smother it. Onions, spinach, lettuce, carrots. I think this is kohlrabi. Never grown it before. Enjoy a good experiment. Oh yes, there you go. The swollen stem. Kohlrabi is in the same family as cabbage, kale. This one has a swollen stem, a very purple stem, and I've heard it's delicious. I've heard that purple vegetables tend to have compounds that assist to longness of life. I guess I'll see how long I live after I eat it. I had planted citrus along this bed between the avocados. The citrus have hardly grown. So this citrus plant is about the same size as the ones that have stayed in my shade house for the last year. So I don't understand why they're not growing bigger. But if I look down here, this one, it's starting to grow. I'm hoping the others will too. Being all grown from seed, they've got lots of spikes on them, and I'll find out when it starts fruiting, whether it's a lemon or an orange or a mandarin, because I just saved seeds from whatever we ate. Purple pak choi adds a lovely bit of colour to the salad. These broad beans are doing much better than the ones over the other side. I can only say it has to come down to the amount of water because I've got this watering system here. But they're strong and they're leafy and they're healthy, whereas the ones over in the other side, contour 1 on the south, those stems have always been soft and misshapen, but it looks like good soil and good water makes a huge difference. Now I've got some shallots here. These shallots I purchased from the local fruit and veg store and just popped them in the ground. So I think these were the long French ones, and this is what they've grown. Their leaves are just a tangled mess. They've come up in all sorts of directions, compared with these bunching shallots that I was given by a friend. Now from the day they shot, they've been straight and tall. I wonder if these will straighten up after a couple of years of being cut straight. Rainbow chard, silver beet. Looks like some more parsley seeds came up in there, and some carrots and some red cabbage. And that's contour 2 on the north. I'm really proud of this garden. It brings me great pleasure. I enjoy walking along here and picking the shallot tops and the lettuces, pak choi. It's been quite a pleasure. Now this is contour 3 on the north. As is my tradition, when I start off the garden bed, I don't pull all the grass out. I plant cover crop and let the cover crop take care of it. So this cover crop is growing really well. I've watered it probably 3 times and then just left it. I'm excited to see this daikon radish in here. It'll do its thing as a cover crop plant and we'll probably get to eat some too. I hear they can get quite large. I've heard that the root can go down 1 metre, so it breaks open hard ground, helps the water get down in there and prepares it beautifully to plant something else. So this bed's been planted right near a pile of soil from the earthworks. This here is a hole where a pardalote family has been living. I haven't seen them coming in and out of the hole for a while. I haven't been out in the garden at the right time. I can't tell if anyone's still living at home, but you see this fine soil here. They're pulling it out of their hole and you can see a pathway where their 2 little feet have scrape. It's been lovely watching them in there. I still hear them around the garden, so I know they're still in the yard. I planted figs in this bed. I think that's a new shoot there. I don't think this one will. No, she's rotted. Yeah, that one's dead. Very dead. I've got another one up in my shade house to replace it. This will be transformed into vegetable garden on this side, on the northern side. All this winter sun on this northern bed is just perfect. It's just what you need. And when the figs get taller, they will provide shade for the vegetables in summer, and the vegetables will have a much better chance of surviving through a long, hot summer. Our summers aren't typically all that dry. They can have dry periods, but we get a lot more of our rain between November and March in southeast Queensland. I've left a path here because this is going to be a really long contour. So this is the other end of contour 3. Once again, I've had a cover crop sprinkled along here. And when that cover crop was done, I chopped it down, laid it down the centre chop and drop row. And now I've got planted my chop and drop plants. So along this side will become vegetable garden. Probably something more like a melon because I won't come down here and harvest it so much. However, once I've hit the garden, it's hard to get me out, so it doesn't matter what I plant, I'll be all over the place. Pomegranate, it's got some nice new shoots there. The apples I planted here are doing fine. I remember after I planted them, one of them was heavily attacked by aphids, and this might be the one. I was not spraying it with anything. Instead, I just poured the worm tea over the top of it with a bit of sea salt, and it's come back. It survived the attack. And here's my coffee plant. I think it needs a bit more water than I've been giving it. It looks like there's a lot of new growth here. Some more daikon radish. You can see the very impressive stem here. Isn't that cool? Look at that. It's interesting that it pushes out of the ground such a long way. So there is my garden. I love it. I love it so much. What a joy to be gardening, to be sharing with the Creator and making new things and wonderful things and yummy things that I can share with my family and friends. Thank you for walking around my garden with me. I hope you have some gardening success and discover some gardening delights in your journey this month.